Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here. I hope you're having a great day in Jesus. We're going to compare a Ryrie study Bible with a Scofield study Bible. And this happens to be a Scofield Bible from local church Bible publishers. They call it the Classic Note Bible. Now, we're pretty much just going to be comparing the insides. As far as the outside, they're probably going to be roughly identical, except for local church. Local church, you're going to get the most bang for your buck. I mean, you are. And so let's take a look at this. Fascinatingly enough, for years, I mean, you were very limited in study Bibles in the United States of America. You had the Thompson, who came out in, 1909. Scofield came out in 1909 as well. It was updated in 1917. Now, that's another interesting thing, is if you can still get the 1909 Scofield, some people really prefer the 1909 Scofield to the 1917. And then you had, let's see what year this is, 1976, you had the Ryrie study Bible come out. Now, in between all that, you had the Dake study Bible come out in 64-ish, something like that, 1964. And so, but a lot of people didn't like the Dake because it was coming from a very overtly Pentecostal tritheistic perspective. It just was. Now, Dake was blessed by God. You know, he just had it in his DNA to have a photographic, amazing memory and the ability to organize minutia. And so the information in a Dake study Bible is incredible. And so Ryrie would be evangelical. Scofield would be considered fundamentalist to evangelical. Still surprising to me how well the Scofield still does. Now, amongst your anti-Zionist crowd, there's been this huge Scofield conspiracy, and many of you constantly give feedback about this on the YouTube channel. So, I've been researching it. I think Whitney Webb wrote a great article on Mint Press about it. Somebody's recommended a couple books about it and all this. I'm still not seeing the connections. I still say there's circumstantial evidence there, but not enough circumstantial evidence to say Scofield was a Zionist agent and that he was some poor drunk that the Zionists just picked up and said, write a study Bible and we'll get you rich, going to country clubs in New York City and all this. So today, we're not going to go into that aspect so much. We're just going to go into the study Bible aspect. And there's still many of you, again, judging by the comments and the views that we get on the Scofield study Bible, that the Scofield study Bible is your preferred study Bible for some various reasons. And I've got a few different Scofield Bibles. Mark DePriest there at our church bought me this gorgeous, genuine leather from Oxford that I've done a review on, that he got at the Books A Million. I don't happen to have that in the mass of books and Bibles that I sit in here that we may have to clean up here in a little bit. So we're just going to look. So I have a large print, and then I have the Classic Note Edition. So when we get into, I'll just let you look at the table of contents of the Ryrie. Now, the Ryrie, I've always been very impressed with its overall printing. It's always had the yellowish paper, which some people say that does away with ghosting or bleed, that type thing. Brother Talmadge French, who I highly respect, PhD from the University of Birmingham in the UK. I don't know if it still is, but for many years, this was his preferred study Bible, the Ryrie study Bible. And so when you get to, we'll just start here, Introduction to the Old Testament, and then Introductions to the Books of the Bible. Just let you see. Now, it's not going to be your full color, latest, greatest. Now, they might be doing that now. I do know they're updating a lot of different study Bibles. The Ryrie, they make in a lot of different translations too. I do know the King James and the New American Standard have been kind of their flagship translations for this. But I think it comes in an NIV and a NKJV as well. With copyrights, that's always been kind of a deal with study Bibles. It's like the Nelson had the copyright to the New King James for many years, maybe still. And so tons of Bibles would be only New King James proprietary because they would charge like the $5 or $10 to, copyright charge to publish something else. And in a sense, I think it kind of held back the New King James from acceptance. But then the NIV kind of did the same thing. The NIV, the NASB with the Lockman Foundation would do that. So you kind of get a feel. One thing I think a lot of people like about the Ryrie is because of the way, first of all, the side column reference is very easy to use, not real extensive, but it almost, I'll show this again, it almost turns it into a quasi-wide margin. Now, the Scofield Bible, it would be very difficult to overestimate the impact the Scofield Study Bible had on American Christianity, because for a lot of years, amongst, I wouldn't say amongst major publishers, really the two major study Bibles in America were the Scofield and the Thompson chain. Now you would have like your Blue Ribbon Bible, the Hertel Blue Ribbon Bible, the Dixon's New Analytical, and I call those kind of boutique-y kind of Bibles because they were almost, this is days before the internet and everything, and a lot of those got sold door to door by door-to-door salesmen, whereas if you went to a Christian bookstore, this would be, what you'd have, Thompson Scofield. Got this from my pastor when he passed away. I'm sitting here looking at all his writings in the front. It's a very emotional time, sorry, but it's passed away in July of this year in his 80s, foreign missionaries, beaten multiple times for the gospel, just a great man. So we will go into this. So edited by Scofield, but then a lot of people don't realize as well, it's not just Scofield's notes. That you had Henry G. Weston, James Gray, president of Moody Bible Institute, William J. Erdman, who wrote like commentaries of the Gospel of John and all this, A.T. Pearson, Doctor of Divinity's massively popular author in the early part of the 20th century, later part of the 19th century, Moorhead, Elmer Harris, president of Toronto Bible Institute, Arno C. Gablin, whose books are still selling to this day, and his son's books. William J. Pettingale. So, I mean, that's one of the things, is if it was some massive conspiracy, it was more than just Scofield, if you know what I'm saying. There was a lot of people in this conspiracy. Now, this is the large print, so it's a large Bible. Now, I will tell you this, that even in the non-large print Scofields from Oxford, they use the amazing Oxford print type. And the Oxford print type, Oxford and Cambridge, primarily back in the 90s, 1900s, not 90s, in the 1900s, mastered the art of what's known as black on white printing, and tremendously dark print, eminently readable. But because of its lining and its spacing, and the lining being from one page to the next, there was almost no bleed through as well, which you would expect. You know, Bibles are such enormous, 66 books in one, 789,000 plus words. And so the reason Bibles are in carrying size is because of the thinness of the Bible paper. A lot of people would call it onion skin. Does it have onion skin paper? Now they've gone up to GSMs. 22 GSM would be a very fine Bible paper. 36 GSM would be something that you could tend to write or highlight on with minimal bleed. And so you can get the feel of this for this particular Bible. And so some of the things that are going to be different between the Scofield and the Ryrie, instead of side column, it's going to be center column. They're both going to have the notes at the bottom. The Scofield is going to have in-text paragraph divisions, whereas the Ryrie is going to have much less of that in the paragraph divisions, at least on this cursory. Now I'm seeing several, so maybe not so much less. But, so that's going to be some of the differences there. The print in the Ryrie is going to be smaller. That's just something we're going to see what size print this is. It's it's looking like 8-point print, and then maybe 7 in the notes. It is readable, and because of the yellow paper, Schuyler uses that kind of yellow paper as well. There's not much in the way of bleed through. So who has the most notes? Just my guess is going to be the Ryrie, because you go quite a few pages, like I just happened to turn to some in the Scofield, with really no notes at all. Now, another thing the Scofield had, let me get back to this. On other translations, you had in 1968 the New Scofield Reference Bible, which was really kind of an updated King James. It was really the first attempt at maybe the KJV ER, or even the KJV 21 by J.P. Green, in that it took, how in the center column reference in a lot of Bibles, it'll have suggested translations or archaic words defined or something. Well, this kind of, the New Scofield in 68, this is an old Scofield, 1917, didn't do that. It kept it in the center column, but the 1968 edition, it would put the archaic definition in the text itself and put the King James translation in the center column reference, by and large. I think they may have tried some other things over the years as well. Another thing that the Scofield did is that it had the great Usher Lloyd chronologies in the center column reference. And this is where I got the chronologies from, by and large, for the Premier Study Bible, which we ended up not using. I think we should. There were a lot of people skittish on the chronologies there. There were some people that had been to Biola and Fuller and things, and they got just a little skittish. They're not getting like pure evangelicalism there, or fundamentalism. They're getting other things at these places. So from Malachi to Matthew, just has one page here. A front and a back. But you can see this deep dark print. Even though this is a large print edition, even in the smaller editions, you get this wonderfully readable print. So let's see what you get in the middle of the Ryrie Study Bible. I would also say the introductions in the Ryrie are probably a little more expansive than the Scofield as well. Charles Caldwell Ryrie, he and Wilmington and some others were really Dwight Pentecost in the mid-70s, 60s, 70s, 80s. They were like the pillars of evangelicalism and fundamentalism. So it does have like an introduction to the New Testament, just a little from Malachi to Matthew section here. So Ryrie, it's printed by Moody Press. So think Moody was kind of like fundamentalism without the edge, I would put it. It would be kind of like conservative evangelicalism. And it's always kind of had that flavor. I remember listening to Francis Schaeffer years ago on Moody's Founders Week, and it was just fantastic. So this is red letter. I'm not sure if you can get it in black letter or not in the Ryrie. You might be wondering, what am I talking about, this yellowish paper? I just don't know if it shows up, but there's certain lights that this and the Schuyler, just the paper's yellow, you can just tell. Now, the red letter in the Scofield, really second to none. To me, the red letter in the Ryrie is just a little light. Now, I don't think the Scofield has outlines as well. The Ryrie before the book's going to have outlines. Again, the Ryrie is just going to be a little more informative, but the Scofield's going to come from this dispensationalist viewpoint. We'll look at the red letter here. And I will tell you, the Ryrie did some amazing things, especially back in the day. This is a blue. And so, you know, almost every Bible for years was jet black, and then somebody stepped out and did a burgundy, and then somebody got really on the cutting edge and did brown. Well, one thing that the Ryries did pretty early is they came out with a blue, which is gorgeous, and with silver instead of the traditional gold. And so silver edges and silver page edges, I mean, just incredible. And then they came out with this brown, like cowhide, that was out of this world. Well, I'm looking at Brother Latta's Turkey bookmark. That's gorgeous. He was a missionary in Turkey for quite some time, mostly in Africa, but then became a missionary evangelist. So let's see if this has red letter in Revelation. You know, and that's shocking to me, this Conservatives Ryrie does. It does not have red letter in Revelation. Index to principal subjects in the notes. Ryrie really shines with some stuff at the back. And he's going to be pretty dispensational, covenantal, but they're both going to be cessationist, basically, which they're not going to be Pentecostal. Let's see what else we got here. Yeah, got some of these. So here's where the Between the Testaments is at the back in the Ryrie. Let's see what else is in the back of the Ryrie here. I've done some individual videos, maybe a couple, on the Ryrie over the course of years. So it's going to have the harmony of the Gospels, which is good, a synopsis of Bible doctrine. This is one of the things, and this is fantastic. We actually had this ready to go in the Premier Study Bible from Brother Nate Wilson. He had like 27 outlines of Bible doctrine. And would you believe, at the last second, the time crunch hit, and we just couldn't fit it in. Now, a lot of people may be glad that we didn't fit it in, because the Bible is, the Premier Study Bible, is such a fantastic size. But I will tell you, the Scofield and the Ryrie are fantastic sizes as well. I mean, they're just, you know, you can carry these things to church. But I mean, like sanctification in the Bible, archaeology in the Bible. And so a lot of people, like, let's say you're a new Christian or you just can't go to Bible school or something. See, you can read this, and it's a Bible school education. And I'll dare say, you may get more education doing that than in a Bible school. I hate to tell you that. Tables of weights and measures. And again, it's not full color. It's kind of the drawings. And in that, it's kind of like the dates. Now, of course, the Moody Bible Atlas by Barry Betzel is the best Bible Atlas that I know. There's a lot with more bells and whistles, but Betzel is the most conservatively educated that I know of. He gives gestures and homage a little bit to liberalism, to say, I know what you guys believe, but he usually comes back to the conservative viewpoint, which I would consider more biblical viewpoint. And then it's got a topical index of doctrines. And I will say, we freely borrowed this idea in the Premier Study Bible from the Ryrie. And when we get to the Scofield in the back and all of that, we're going to see if the Scofield Oxford has the same stuff as the local church. Now again, the local church is not known as the Scofield, it's known as the Classic Note, Classic Study Bible, and then the Church Bible Publishers does the same thing. And they may also do a Thompson that the copyright has lapsed on. That's how they are able to do this, copyright's lapsed. So here's a wonderful concordance, decent print. It never ceases to amaze me sometimes, like large print Bibles will have 6-point print in the concordance. This is not the case. Boy, this does have decorative head and tail bands, blue, white. Really matches the blue silver. It's kind of like a midnight blue, this cover. And then it's going to have some just good old-fashioned maps. And these maps are going to be full color, but nothing else in the rest of the Bible is. Going to have a little bit of yap to it too. I've always noticed that about the Moody Ryrie Study Bible. So I wonder if they get it printed by R.R. Donnelly. They're all up there in Chicago kind of together, that area anyhow. But I mean, this is just a good carrying Bible, no doubt about it. So it's 9.5, and this is with the yap by 6.5 by about 1 3/4, which again, that's an eminently carryable Bible, but more than your average yap. So let's see if it's red letter in Revelation in Scofield. I think it is. Yeah, it definitely is. One of the neat things about the Premier Study Bible is it's red letter in 1 Timothy 5:18, which is on the cutting edge of biblical scholarship. Because a lot of people don't know, F.F. Bruce was maybe the first to point it out, that that's Paul quoting Luke 10:7 and calling Luke 10:7 scripture, which has huge implications. Let's make sure the local church is red letter. It should be, because they're just using the same text, just shrinking it down. In Revelation, let's see here. Well, good thing I checked, because it's not red letter in Revelation. You know what? This local church may not be red letter at all. Let me check on that. Boy, I just really have an affinity for the gold and black decorative head and tail bands. I will say that. Yeah, it's just not red letter at all. That's our deal here. Okay, so Scofield, dispensations, covenants, gap theory. Again, it is difficult to overestimate the role Scofield has played on American foreign policy. Pompeo and these guys, you know, you've got a greater Israel. This goes back to an Abrahamic covenant, which Scofield would bring out. The use of this index. Okay, so it's going to have an index. Like I just turned to a neat subject. Okay, church age precedes kingdom. The church age predicted by Christ. Relation to the second advent. Revelation through Paul. Now, both Scofield and Ryrie would be kind of like rapture people, if you know what I'm saying. That they're going to be pre-trib rapture. You would kind of have to get into like the Reformation Heritage Study Bible, maybe some others to not get into that. Dictionary of Proper Names is in here. That's always helpful to me. There's great books like by Jackson and Cornwall. Is it Cornwall? Judson Cornwall. Subject index. Great Oxford Concordance. We'll make sure that pretty much all of this is contained in the local church classic note as well. Now, back in the day, Jack Hyles had a classic note study Bible that was a blank page between every page of text. And so that was pretty cool. And I keep meaning to do a review on that, and I don't. So, the large print has no maps. Let's see if let's make sure this has everything. It has proper names, has a subject index, has the Great Concordance. I'm thinking this is going to have maps. But this, I think these maps may not be like Oxford maps. I think these are just maps that local church uses. But I'm thinking your Scofield, like if you just go buy a Scofield, which I can't believe the price on Scofields now. Like Books A Million regularly runs them for, I think, in genuine leather, $29.97, bonded leather, $19.97, and even when they're not on sale, it's $39 and $29. And the genuine leather's just amazing on that. So it's just kind of the difference between the Ryrie and the Scofield. Ryrie's maybe going to have a little more commentary, a little more in the introductions. Probably somewhere close to equal to the amount of things that are in the back. The Scofield is going to have the chronologies at the top of the center column reference. They're both going to have somewhat limited references, and they're both going to be coming from similar theological perspectives. And here in the year 2019, you may be watching this sometime later, they're still selling quite well, surprisingly enough, and really show no signs of slowing down. The only thing that's really slowing down the Scofield is this little cottage industry of anti-Zionism, which, trust me, I totally understand the plight of Palestinian people. I have been to Bethlehem, I've been to Palestinian territories before, and they were very surprised. We were very kind to them. And there's many Christians in the Palestinian territories as well. And, they're people. Jesus hung on the cross for them. But, at the same time, I would say that the regathering of Israel, I would not say they're Khazarians and all of this. I would say it is biblical fulfillment. And so you've got this again, kind of cottage industry sect saying that is not true. So, be that as it may. So the Ryrie and the Scofield compared, both be pretty good, both be non-Pentecostal, but have been used by Pentecostals for decades. Your brother Urshan Scofield, I remember J.T. Pugh preaching, he's going to be preaching out of a Scofield. I think James Kilgore, So it's just played a huge role in American Christianity. So God bless. Talk with you later in Jesus' name.